This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by PDS Debt. Struggling with credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, or collections? It's time to stop worrying about that high-interest debt you've got piling up. PDS Debt can help you start saving money immediately. Their platform can analyze your unique situation and create a plan to get you out of debt. There's no minimum credit score required, and it takes 30 seconds to get your results. With PDS Debt, you'll take back control of your finances. Get a free debt analysis in just 30 seconds at pdsdebt.com/Spotify.
It's winter, and you can now get almost anything you need for the coldest months of the year delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a ski slope delivered, but you can get dish soap delivered. Sunshine, that's a no. But a bottle of wine, that's a yes. A snow angel, sorry, no. But angel hair pasta, Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol and select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
We are back with another episode of The Blue Turf. This is Thad Bell. With me, Eric Bergrud. We are doing over Zoom today because I cannot get my life straightened out. My daughter had a car wreck this week. She's fine. But just life has been unkind the last few days. Not only to me, but to the Comets as well. How about you doing? How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing better than you are, Thad, and kudos to you for making time during a stressful week for another episode of The Blue Turf. So thanks for having me.
Well, I feel like we have to do this, and this is like really the only time because like tomorrow I'm actually out. I will be out of town for a while, so not very long, but just a little bit. This was like the only time slot I could end up with. So thanks for being flexible as well.
Sure.
All right, last weekend, win at home, 4-3 over Utica, and on the road, not so pretty. I did not see either one live because I was at Sporting Game home opener for the Utica game.
That was your choice.
That was my choice. Home opener versus a regular season game. There's a lot of,
But you
balancing.
could have played in the media game too. I mean, it's all a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have. There's not a lot that I play anymore. But anyway, not such a pretty game in Milwaukee.
Let's start with Utica because there's some good news there. So Comets were coming in with a 7-game win streak. No Rion Marquez, who's been nursing a hamstring issue, which was apparent that they had to adjust around his absence on both games.
Yes.
Big game Saturday night, for Zach Reggett, hat trick and assist. Danny Malhue finally got on the scoreboard. Beautiful pass for the game winner, cross from the right side to find Danny's running back post, and he got his first goal and he looked really good. So Zach was number 1 star of the game. Danny was number 2. Couple things that didn't work as well. Comets got to an early 3-0 lead and then kind of had to hold on there for a while. They definitely missed Rion Marquez on special teams. They would have normally had him for penalty kicks and for shootouts, and with him being gone, Zach Reggett took a penalty kick, which wound up being a miss, and then the Comets didn't score on the ensuing power play. Nacho took a shootout instead of Marquez. That was a miss, and they didn't score on the ensuing power play. They still won, but it wasn't as easy as it could have been. But kudos to the Comets for grinding one out, which then set them on course for a not so pretty, as you said, game at Milwaukee on Sunday.
Yeah, what was that final? 13-3, something like that? Not so
I'd
good.
say everything that could go wrong went wrong on that game. Too many open looks for Milwaukee. Nothing seemed to work offensively for Kansas City. They had to get really, really creative. In fact, at the end of the game, after Zach Reggett fouled out, 6 fouls, Steph Mijatovic wound up having to play target because they were short of players.
Yep.
So Junior Kazim was out all weekend. Rion Marquez was out all weekend. And so it was a tough going. I believe I said last week they needed 4 points to come out of the weekend. 3's not terrible, but not ideal. And now they stare, having survived one back-to-back weekend. It's not necessarily a back-to-back weekend, but you got a trip to Mexico with a long trip day back, followed by the 16-time champion San Diego Sockers coming to town. And so this is going to be a difficult task ahead of them. And I would say 3 points, absolute minimum for this weekend.
Yeah, I always hate to do that absolute minimum, or, got to get, because it sometimes balances out with other days, but, they're still in a pretty decent spot in the standings. But you said everything went wrong up there. Because I know like they changed goalies partway through the game. That didn't help. Just what?
Yeah, let's start with that. So I thought Nicolau Neto was terrific in the first half. There just nothing was working in front of them.
Right.
And occasionally coaches will try to shake things up by pulling the goalkeeper, even if it's not the goalkeeper's fault. Really, all that did was harm Philip Ejemadu's goals against average to take him from near a 4.0, which for me, if you get under a 4.0, that's MVP of the league territory, and moved them up above 4.3. And so the goals were sparse for Kansas City. The goals were all over the place for Milwaukee. And if you had told me that Frank Taiu would have 4 goals in his debut for Milwaukee, I think some people would have said, sure, why not? I didn't see that coming.
No, I probably would have jokingly asked how many of them were put in by Comets, though.
They were all put in by Taiu. So
yeah, no, they were good. I did not watch the whole game. I've kind of skimmed through because, again, I wasn't able to watch it live, and it's brutal to try to watch a game where it's going to be so bad. But I tried. I did my best.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting rematch coming up. So the Comets get through this weekend, and then they back at Cable Dahmer on Friday the 14th against Milwaukee. You might recall that game was supposed to take place in January. It was supposed to be on a Sunday afternoon. Ticket sales, so for that one. It was also supposed to be on YouTube. Fast forward to March. There's some bad feelings left after the game in Milwaukee. There were bad tastes in the mouth of Comets fans. And then you move this to a Friday night, which will help attendance. And then as well, you put it on CBS Sports Golazo Network. That's going to be an intense game. I think that Milwaukee now has confidence, maybe a little bit of momentum, and a belief in themselves again after a so-so start to the season. And I think for Comets and Comets fans, anger.
Yeah.
And a lot of it. And so we'll be talking about that next episode, but definitely have that game circled, because just based on events that happened on the field, off the field there in Milwaukee, I think Comets fans are going to be primed and ready to go next Friday.
What do you think most set off fans from up there?
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, there were the signs that you could see at the stadium, but there was a set up trivia question. related to Derek Huffman and asked which phrase he popularized, and it was multiple choice. The funny thing about this is whoever set up the graphics spelled Derek Huffman's name wrong. So I did a screen grab and texted it up to Milwaukee. I'm like, spelling is a lost art. Was my response. So I mean, it was queued up to rile up their fans, sure, but in the process, stirred up some hard feelings with Kansas City fans, which boiled over online after the game, and I bet you it's going to be intense. We got a taste of it against UCFC fans. Once again, we're booing Nelson Santana, although I said on air, I bet most people don't even remember why they were booing Nelson Santana. They just kind of did it because the people around him did it. When Milwaukee comes, it's going to be genuine in terms of fan focus on the way.
Yeah, the Kansas City fans booing Santana actually came up on our other pod, which focuses a little more on sporting Kansas City and other stuff, but we do cover the comments a little bit on that one too, the Shades of Blue. That came up because Cody Bradley was there, and he was like, why are they booing this guy? So.
Yeah, we joked about it on air. I mean, there was a game last year where he had a run-in with Rion Marquez, and every time that game afterwards, he touched the ball, they started booing. It happened again in the playoffs, and we set him up. We teed him up as the spotlight player on air because we knew Kelvin Oliveira wasn't going to be playing. So it's like, who we're going to have as a spotlight? Well, may as well have Nelson Santana because you know that this is going to happen, and it did. But that was not anything in terms of intensity of what I expect when Milwaukee comes to town.
No, I don't think so. And honestly, I don't know. Kansas City fans usually seem to be nicer mostly, but I think Milwaukee may have raised the bar for that level of discontent.
We'll see. I was surfing the net last night. I just kind of ran into one of the things you never know what you're going to find on YouTube. And so there's a page that's the owner is Slobo Ilievsky. So it's somebody who right. But it's a game from the LA Forum in 1984, the Steamers against the Lasers, and I was there, and you can hear me, and you can hear the fans razzing Slobo Ilievsky. So it was just sort of a reminder of fans in a certain mood can have an impact on the game. And so if you're interested at some point, hey, take a look. It's I shared it with a few people when I saw it, and I even gave them the time clips. And there's the St. Louis announcers made the comment that Slobo didn't like the fans behind him and asked at the previous game for them to be moved. Yeah, I was one of them.
So you were one of those rowdy guys back then, huh?
I was. If you look really carefully, you can see me, 16-year-old me behind Slobo Ilievsky. It's pretty wild. But my point being is that fans can bring intensity, and I would expect that at Milwaukee. It'll be interesting to see with the Sockers. There's this historic thing between the Sockers and the Comets, but that has a different vibe to it than Milwaukee.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sockers is more just like they were kind of the evil empire because they won so much kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But Milwaukee has had some very much directed player fan interaction.
Sure.
And a lot more of it.
So there you are. But I guess we need to talk about this weekend, right? So 2 games. Comets go to Chihuahua Friday, come back home to Cable Dahmer for San Diego on Sunday.
Yep.
Just a note about San Diego, they have a midweek game against Empire at home, then a Friday game at St. Louis, and then Sunday at Kansas City. So they're going to have to manage legs over that period of time. The Comets need to manage legs too, because it's not an easy trip from Kansas City to Chihuahua.
No.
And then you got to figure your way back, and then you got to turn around and play the 16-time champions. So I would anticipate you're going to see a lot of different players suiting up this week. So we still don't know the progress of Rion Marquez. I would not expect him to be
No,
at the Chihuahua game,
no,
right?
I would not.
But it'll be interesting to see who makes that trip, and then who else we see for the Sockers game. If you look at the standings right now, as of when we're recording this, that is subject to change after this is streamed. Chihuahua in first place, 46 points on 20 games. Kansas City in second place, 41 points, 17 games. San Diego, 39 points, 17 games. I'd say the Sockers will pick up points and be ahead of Kansas City by the time San Diego comes to Cable Dome Arena. So that's going to make some interesting choices for Coach Stefan Stokic. Can we go after both teams equally? As we know, Chihuahua is very difficult to win down there, but you can't lose to San Diego. San Diego is wants that number 2 spot that you're currently sitting in right now. And so I would anticipate some careful thought from the Kansas City coaching staff on terms of who makes that trip down to Chihuahua. And then it's all in Sunday for the Sockers.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check the Jumbotron first, before attempting to eat a stack of Supreme nachos in one bite. Now you're just a meme that everyone shares on game day. Checking first is smart, so check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Vertuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
Don't miss your window of opportunity. Upgrade your space now during Blinds.com's anniversary sale and save up to 50% site-wide. Our design experts can help schedule a professional measure and installation, plus guidance for DIYers too. With over 25 million windows covered and our 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can count on Blinds.com to deliver results you'll love. Shop Blinds.com's anniversary sale now for up to 50% off site-wide. Save up to 50% site-wide at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Yeah, honestly, if it was me, I would probably risk going down there with a very light roster. No offense to who anybody might be playing, but I might go down there with younger guys and just focus on the San Diego game and see if you can steal something from Chihuahua. But in the long run, it's probably more important to show up against San Diego and a better chance if all things were equal, if it was a one-off trip where they weren't worried about the next game 2 days later and such forth, they take everybody down to Chihuahua and see how they match up, because they were able to finally beat Chihuahua this year, but they need to do it on the road at some point, right? Yep. So that would have been a good test. But it's not all things being equal, schedules not being perfect, everything else. Maybe you do just focus on San Diego more.
Well, but we've also seen teams this year give Chihuahua really tough games for 3.5 quarters, and then Chihuahua come in the end. So even if it's a different looking lineup going down for Kansas City, that doesn't mean that they don't have a shot to win. Right. It's just that you need to think carefully about this, particularly as you have 7 games left and limited opportunities. You got to figure out which games are we going to absolutely go for it. You absolutely need to win all 3 home games, which would be San Diego this week, Milwaukee next week, and later in the month, Tacoma. But everybody's talking about the playoffs now, Thad, and everybody's saying how that the 1 and 2 spot, that's where you want to be, because you'd play on Friday the 4th, theoretically win, get Saturday off and go on to Sunday. That's the sweet spot if you're one of those, are if you're near the top of the bracket right now.
True. So yeah, I think they need to do everything they can to stay in the top two. And hey, they still can catch Chihuahua even if they lose to them. It is feasible. So
it's feasible. It just becomes harder. And the other thing I would just say is, if you look ahead at Chihuahua's schedule, again, no offense to teams in the league, but they end with 2 games back to back at Harrisburg. Kansas City recently had that experience and was successful with 2 wins. I think it's going to be really hard if a team is relying on Harrisburg to knock off Chihuahua for them. That's not a position you want to be in.
No, I mean, you can hope they do, but it's not. You don't want to count on that. Again, we've talked about it before. Harrisburg's tougher than their schedule shows, but they still don't have a very good result. So, curiosity. Last time we talked, the Comets had a new player. How do you think that has been so far? I mean, I know at Milwaukee he had to kind of fill in some different spots and such forth, but how do you think that integration has been in the short time that he's been on the field for the Comets?
Well, I think, let's just say to start, that there's a minimum expectation on fitness, and so they weren't prepared for him to play a regular shift the whole game against Utica. The thought was he would come in starting in the second quarter. It didn't happen until the third. And so he basically had managed minutes over the weekend. He played more in Milwaukee. In fact, he started on the back line against Milwaukee. Had one memorable opportunity Friday night to score, Saturday night to score. I think he might have had one Sunday and just didn't keep his shots down. And so I think they're still trying to figure out how to get him integrated or better integrated with the system. But this just takes time, right?
Oh, it does.
He hasn't had that long in the system with the guys. They're still getting to know him. There have been so many injuries and changes, and they need to make some decisions heading to the playoffs. What are our 2 defensive pairings look like, and then who's the 5th person in, and where he's going to fit? Stay tuned.
No, that's why, because you watched those games much closer than I was able to this last weekend. I was just curious what you thought of the initial looks. But on a slightly different note, I've been kind of pleased that I haven't not seen a lot of Comets fans complain about him being signed.
They didn't. But the funniest thing that happened, so I'm down on the field against the Utica game right before the players go back into the locker room, and he comes up to me and says, "Eric, Kid Chicago?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I said that." So last week's episode, we were talking about him, and I mentioned, "Oh yeah, on Instagram, isn't he Chicago Kid or Kid Chicago? It's King Chicago." So at least we know somebody listens to this show, Thad. And so, Steph, King Chicago, got it.
All right. Do I need to wear a disguise at the next game? I don't think I said anything bad about the guy, did I?
No. I think no, you didn't say anything bad. I think
Good.
Really it was an honest appraisal of the situation.
Right.
The Comets set parameters for him to come, and he's proving himself to his teammates, to his coaching staff, and ultimately to the fan base. So I think that's completely fair.
Well, I would say even maybe more so to himself.
Well, there you go. And he's going to have chances this weekend. So really, I go back to something I said in the last episode, is I firmly believe for the Comets to win the championship, they need goals on the back line. Lascia Tetsane is back, which is good because he's been in and out of the lineup nursing an injury, and we know he can score from the back line, left side. Be great to have a right-footed complement who can score on the back line.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned Vandergrift scoring goals, but he's scoring goals by making runs up the field. It's not set at the yellow line and hitting bangers from out there.
No, that's one of the great attributes he brings. And again, I wish him the best, and hopefully everything works out for him. More importantly than his athletic career, but more, for him in his life. But it would be a lot of fun to see him score on Milwaukee here in a couple weeks.
And he'll have that opportunity. So it'll be interesting. The Comets and the Wave haven't seen each other much the last couple of years. You might recall that they were playing each other 6 times a year for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then last year it adjusted so that there was only one regular season game. That was the season opener at Cable Dahmer. And then they didn't see each other again until the playoffs when Kansas City knocked them out in one of the more bizarre games I think I've ever seen, where Milwaukee came back with a 6 attacker and then lost with a 6 attacker in overtime. This year, only 3 games. This will be the first time they're in Kansas City. So, we'll see. They did post a post-game graphic on social media, something to the effect where Kansas City Comets have not beaten the Wave for like 323 days, which is technically true, but it doesn't really mean anything. I don't know, but it makes the fans happy when you throw shade at your rival,
whether it's extremely accurate or not.
Yeah,
right.
It's technically correct.
It's and as some people will say, technically is the best kind of correct.
There you go.
What else do we need to talk about tonight, Eric? I feel like it's been a while since we talked, just because.
We talked the last couple of weeks about the top teams, kind of breaking where they might break based on having competitive weekends, particularly on the road. I mean, looking at the schedule the last couple of weeks, it was brutal for the Baltimore Blast, but they got home and got on the right track. San Diego, this is a good test for them this week. And I'd say watch out for this Sunday, because the Wave are at St. Louis, and you might think, oh, hey, the Wave always beats St. Louis, but St. Louis has been playing well lately. I think all these trades have shaken up the lineup, and they've been consistent. They pulled 6 points last weekend. They're currently sitting in 9th place with a chance to get into playoff position. So I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Milwaukee a really tough game. That'll be at the Family Arena Sunday afternoon.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed Sponsored Jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
2 p.m. So we'll know the result of that game before the Sockers and Comets kick off.
Speaking of St. Louis and trades, I don't know how many they ended up making, but did this feel like a much more active trade deadline week coming into it?
Oh, I for sure, and I've heard a couple people say this. St. Louis was extremely active. Utica made some moves. Dallas made some moves, which is interesting. That they sent All-Star Christian Quintana to San Diego, so we expect to see him on Sunday. They sent O'Keefe who was their combine guy from last year, to St. Louis, and so they picked up an El Salvadoran national player. I mean, so it's hard to tell on some of these teams that are they making a run for this year. I would say getting Mijatovic for Kansas City, yes, that's making a run. St. Louis, hard to tell how much of that was we just need to get better right now versus we need to plan for the future, or a combination thereof. But so far, so good for them.
I mean, St. Louis is not that far out of a playoff spot, right?
No, 3 points helps them. I mean, right now, they're a game in hand over Tacoma, 2 points behind Tacoma. You win that one, you're potentially the 8th seed. I don't think that anybody's going to catch the top 7. So right now, it's technically a battle between Tacoma, St. Louis, and Dallas for that last spot.
I mean, there was a point where I didn't think St. Louis would be even in competition for a playoff spot. So kudos to them for kind of picking it back up.
Yeah, no, absolutely for them. And we'll see. And Tacoma, a lot of home games still to play, but they've got a home and home coming up with Kansas City, which I think is going to be pivotal for both teams.
I wonder if there was something that, I mean, just the people being more serious this season that what caused all those trades, or domino effect. One team makes a trade, everybody else has to keep moving it to be competitive.
Yeah, I don't know. What's funny is I talked to a couple people around the league this past week, and people have been kind of coy about what moves they might be making.
Yeah.
So, well, sure. I mean, why would you trust me? I wouldn't trust me, but
I would, Eric.
Yeah,
I trust
thank you, Thad.
We share secrets.
Hey, did I broadcast the Mijatovic
No,
trade? No, I did not.
You knew about it before other people. I'm not going to say how early you knew about it because I don't want to have you sacrifice or potentially give up any of your sources.
Right.
But you and I had discussed the possibility of this happening, and I was reaching out to it happening, which is kind of why I was able to get the podcast recorded and be the first one to put the news out there.
Yeah. So, hey, at least maybe I can be partially trusted, but I think teams are just looking for that edge. Empire made a move. Tell you what, Empire is playing extremely well right now, and say what you want about their system, which can be broken down, by the way, but they're finding a way to win. And as I said, we're recording this before they play at San Diego. They always seem to come up short against San Diego, so that's a big test for them. Can you go down to Front Wave Arena and get 3 points? Then you can tell the rest of the league we're a legit team to be concerned about.
Yeah, I think that's a game I'm going to try to watch for sure. Again, I like the way Empire plays. I know it's different, and I know people say it's not good enough. It's not, you got a defense wins championships, etc., which is not untrue. But I like a good system where you're just putting it out there. You're going all out. So I like it.
Have dogs barking in the background. So I'd say other reason to watch Empire is we're getting to the point of thinking about postseason awards. Stephane Stokic and Onua Obasi as potential Coach of the Year candidates.
Well, I know I would vote for Stokic, but others may not.
No, I mean, I think right now they're the front runners, but they're the front runners with a lot of games left to play. And so it doesn't matter where you are at the beginning of March. It probably matters a lot more where you are at the end of March. And so it'll be interesting to see. Empire has improved dramatically over last year. They were a last place team. They finished in the Western Conference, which we used to have Western conferences. Last year they were 3-19-2. If you can imagine that, with 10 points. Fast forward to where they are right now, they already have 30 points with 5 games left. That's a pretty significant turnaround. They made some roster moves. They got Berto back, so you can say, oh, it was on the field, but you got a coach of a team that made a 20-point turnaround. That's pretty good. And then you look at Kansas City, they've gotten better from where they were last year. And kudos to Coach Stokic. So it's going to be interesting to see how these next few weeks play out. Possibility of Defender of the Year with Chad Vandergrift. Possibility with Goalkeeper of the Year with Philip Ejimadu. If he gets healthy and scores goals the way he has been, possibility of MVP for Rion Marquez. The longer he's out, the harder that's going to be, though. But you've got Kansas Cityans in all sorts of positions for some postseason hardware. But I think to a player or to a man, they would tell you the most important hardware is that Ron Newman Cup.
Oh, definitely. I always thought for Coach of the Year, they should, I know like they will talk about it's a regular season award or something. I think they should actually break it. They should not award these things until the postseason is complete, because that matters. You can be a great coach in the regular season and not do anything in the playoffs. Or you could make a big run in the playoffs because you got your team just in the right spot. So I want to change things. So let's see if we can
work on that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna campaign for that. That's one of the many things I want to change in life.
There you go.
All right. Any last words? Anything prophetic? Anything to make Comets fans happy? To make Milwaukee fans Milwaukee fans?
Oh, Milwaukee fans don't need to hear from me. They already hear from me. So I look ahead to when the starters are announced or when the lineup is out for Friday night, just to see what decisions Coach Stokic made. And then you start trying to figure out who's not there and who may be just resting. And they're going to need an effort beyond 16 players. You're looking at 19, 20 players who need to contribute to the cause this weekend, because they can either help cement their pathway to a top 2 seed, or they can create damage that will be really difficult to overcome.
I think the remainder of this season will be very entertaining, one way or the other.
For sure.
Appreciate the time, Eric. I will talk to you soon, I'm sure. And we are out.